And we are live. How's it going, everybody? It's Wardy here, and we're back at it with our latest New York Metropolitan post-game coverage to get into, as the Mets faltered to the Houston Astros today by a final score of 8-5. So in today's show, we're going to go over all the key takeaways, headlined by Brett the Met Baty, Jose Siri, Luis Angel Acuna, Jesse Winker, Jet the Met Williams, and a couple others as well that I'm really looking forward to getting into, because as I've been saying all spring training long, doesn't matter if you win or lose these games, all that matters is truly these guys getting ramped up for the season, as well as looking at position battles, looking at key prospects getting opportunities. The way that the Astros' top prospect absolutely torched the Mets today in Caleb Smith, hitting not one but two home runs. So we're going to get into all the latest here, what I liked the most, along with all the key highlights and our player of the game here shortly, folks. And I also will be live in the Bleacher Report app right around 5 p.m. Eastern. So right as we're done with this live show today, I'll be in the BR app breaking down the top 10 players to watch this spring training across Major League Baseball now on new teams, headlined by Juan Soto. And I will also have another video out for you guys today before I hit the hay, so you're welcome in advance. A full day of Mets coverage here on the WardyNYM platform. So let's do a quick roll call on the live show, and then let's get into all the latest in Mets land. Shout out to my amazing friend and followers, not only Dave Kaplitz, but Chris as well. You guys know who you are. Thank you guys so much for the beyond generous things you sent my way. I'm so excited to get into what you guys have sent to my P.O. box. So that is what we're going to round out the show with before we get out of here. Dave, I see you right there. Thank you so much for the hat. I'm on many other things. Have no idea how much I appreciate you. Same deal with you, Chris. So we will get into that in the latter half of the show. But in the meantime, let's get to everyone first chiming in. Daniel, how you doing? Bobby G, my man. David, how are you? WardyNYM, when? Never, David. As much as I love my Rangers, I have literally zero time to try to at all cover hockey in my life. And that's just the reality of it. I love the Rangers, but no hockey coverage in the near future. John, how you doing? Michael, how you doing? Daniel, great follower as always. Juan Diaz, great member and moderator. Michael Bryan, Leo, great member. Dan Nugent, great member. Dave, my man, as always, how are you? Dave, I hope you like the hat. It's fitting nice. It's looking nice. It's all thanks to you. Kevin, Darren, great member in the list going up here. Michael Smith, how are you? We got Jack hyping me up earlier in the show, and the chat rather. Jason, Daniel, Denny, thank you guys. Come one, come all. We appreciate you. But now, folks, let's get into this one. Reggie, Vinny, you guys are amazing. And you know what's amazing? Watching Mets baseball. I gotta say, there's something therapeutic about watching spring training games, knowing that they don't count, knowing that it doesn't matter win or lose. So you don't need to be invested in the way that, oh my goodness, I'm gonna live and die with this team every single day, but rather just focus on the things I want to focus on and what we should be focusing on. So let's do exactly that, and let's first get into how these lineups started today, because as I'm going to show you shortly, the lineup that I'm going to present is going to be a graphic of how the game ended, not how it started. The Astros lineup today did feature a couple notable batters there, including guys like Mr. Isaac Paredes, who they acquired from the not Houston Astros, that they acquired over this past offseason. There was a former Tampa Bay Ray and Chicago Cub there to now play third base. Christian Walker had a good day at the plate there at first base for the Astros. You had guys like Diaz there at DH, as well as Caratini, who had a great day at the backstop position. Ben Gamel, a New York Met in the first half of last year, was in the lineup, and as well as Luis Guillorme, who got some time in the infield there for the Astros. And for the Mets, our lineup was as follows today. It was led off by Luis Angel Acuna, who I have a lot of great things to say about now and in our video later today. Francisco Alvarez batting second there at catcher. Batting third was Jesse Winker in right field. Batting fourth is Tyrone Taylor coming out of left field. Batting fifth is Brett the Met Baty at the hot corner. Jose Siri there commanding center. Batting sixth, batting seventh was Louis Torrens at DH. Batting eighth was first baseman Jared Young. And batting ninth was Dalton Walton, who's trying to make a case to be the next utility man for the Mets now that Nick Madrigal has went down with injury. So right away, I just got to say, heading into this game, there were two guys that stood out to me that I'm like, I think they're going to have good games. And that's why the initial thumbnail of our post-game show today was Luis Angel Acuna and Jose Siri, because I really was feeling it that at least one of the two was going to hit a bomb today. And lo and behold, one of them did exactly that, while the other was a perfect plate setter and getting the run started for the Mets today. And that started with Luis Angel Acuna, but let's quickly pivot into where the player spotlight is today, because while there was tremendous home run accolades, not only from Brett Baty, but as well as, and that's exactly what we got to get into here, our guy in Jose Siri absolutely pimped that one against his former team. Jose, the former Astro, Red, I feel like Mariner, Tampa Bay Ray, now a New York Met. And as I tweeted earlier, and it still applies today, Jose Siri is literally the swaggiest man to pimp a home run while batting right around the Mendoza line. But all jokes aside, Jose Siri exemplified that power beautifully. Exactly what we can expect in Queens this year. Electric defense at center, helping back up guys like Juan Soto and Brandon Nimmo, along with some pop in that bat. The big question for Siri is, will he be able to work on his hitting mechanics to actually be a capable contact bat, at least hitting, let's say, in the 220 to 245, 250 range? We're going to find out throughout the course of the year in a platoon role with Tyrone Taylor, barring changes. But Jose Siri making one of his first starts this spring, getting the most of the opportunity right away. And the most notable thing to me is not just the fact that he pimped a nice home run there against the Astros, is that he did it against Ronel Blanco. That's the most notable thing here, right? We had Ronel Blanco on the bump for the Astros, one of their better starters in their rotation, facing off against what was a bullpen game for the Mets today, where Brandon Waddell, who, mind you, hasn't pitched in Major League Baseball since 2021, made his spring debut here for the Mets today, getting the start. So Jose Siri to do that against Blanco was all the more impressive, and I'm really happy to see the early goings of what we've gotten from him so far this spring. Mets fans, let me know in the comments down below to our replay viewers. The same applies. Have you guys felt about Jose Siri so far this spring? Do you like him? Do you not like him? Again, this is a very extroverted personality, and knowing that we already have a swaggy guy on the roster in Vientos, I'm not going to call him Swaggy Siri. I'm going to call him Saucy Siri, because he's exemplifying a lot of sauce and a lot of things that I like in Mets land, especially when we have a lot of these Hispanic players that are absolutely jumping for joy constantly in the clubhouse, pimping home runs the way that he does. That is what, in my opinion, makes baseball in part so great. It's by exemplifying these personalities and not being conformist, which has up until now 2025 been the New York Yankee way. But guys, let me know all your thoughts on Jose Siri, because now let's get into how exactly this game transpired, because they lost 8-5 in the end, and let's get into how this whole thing unraveled, if you will. And it started there in the first that we saw with guys like Luis Angel Acuna certainly stepping up. Acuna looked fantastic. James, great member, happy to have you in here. Reggie, how you doing? David, Scott, Sandal, Juan Diaz, great member. Ethan, Mr. Chicken, Bobby G, happy to have you all. Come one, come all, as we break down the latest in Mets land. But Luis Angel Acuna was what, without question, stood out most today. He rips himself a leadoff single that we saw against Ronel Blanco, and then goes first all the way to third. If you're wondering how did that happen, that's because after trying to make a steal at second base, the ball goes past, it's a throwing error, and bam, he gets all the way to third. Acuna would be then driven in shortly after by Jesse Winker, the man himself, as he rips a deep single down the first baseline, and right away the Mets are off with a 1-0 lead. That would be really all that transpired for the Mets in the first, is then Isaac Paredes gets himself a walk, Christian Walker rips a barrel double beautifully, and Carantini drives in a pair there thanks to Jared Young, who is a man competing for a roster spot, competing for that utility role for the Mets. More of your backup first base option for Alonso than anything else. And what does Jared Young do in one of his first games of spring for the Mets? He unfortunately botches a ball terribly. It's an error. It hits off him. It gets past him. 2-run score thanks to Carantini putting the ball in play. And Jared Young, who I do not expect to be on this Mets opening day roster, just reaffirmed that exact belief, barring changes. I know it's spring training. I know it's early. And this same Jared Young did have 2 hits today. So it's not like the guy can't hit. He's hit everywhere he's went. He was in AAA for the not Syracuse Cardinals. He was in AAA for the St. Louis Cardinals, as well as in the KBO in the Korean Baseball League last year, where he raked. He hit a good amount of home runs. He had over 20 home runs total, combining the 2 last year. A hit for a solid average and putting up some solid slugging. So Jared Young, a veteran infield utility option the Mets are considering right now. That error leads to an early lead there for the Astros, however, which leads us then to the second inning, because as we got to the second, Jose Siri pimped that home run that we just alluded to, and then we saw guys like both Mr. Young and Walton getting on with a single. And Dalton Walton, who hasn't really done much at the MLB level, as a name to follow this spring, because now that Nick Madrigal is out for an extended period of time with injury, the Mets are trying to fortify and figure out who is going to crack that last roster spot. Will it be Acuna? Will it be Baty? Will it be a guy like Walton? Well, he has now found himself in the mix, and yes, he's exactly like what you'd expect, exact short type that's going to be more of a defensive replacement than anything else. I can't imagine it being much more, but maybe the Mets have some tricks up their sleeves I have yet to talk about at this point in time, so we'll see. No less, the Mets are down, but that is only up until Jose Siri hit that game-tying home run to make it 2-2. Then Luis Angel Acuna with an RBI ground out gives the Mets a 3-2 lead, and then that same inning, a half inning later, pardon me, not Luis Angel Acuna, but rather Luis Guillorme, the former New York Metropolitan, the wizard in the field, rips a single. Guillorme had 2 hits against his former team today. And then we see in the third there, we see butchered the last name, but the number 5 starter for the Astros this year, more than likely. And let me actually scroll down now to make sure I don't miss it here. Wisniewski, whatever his name is, he's projected to be probably the 5th starter or so for the Astros in their rotation. And right away, he's greeted by Brett the Met Baty, who rips an absolute bomb. Towering shot to right. Another beautifully pulled baseball by Brett Baty, and that increases the Mets' lead, at least at the time. Siri would get on with a walk thereafter and then gets to second base on a wild pitch, but that'll do it there for the Mets' offensive upside there in the inning, because then we see Vega come in there to be the Mets' reliever at the time, and he creates an absolute mess. Guillorme with an RBI single makes it 4-4, and then that's pretty much that. So there's no one notable on the pitching end for the Mets today, if I'm being completely honest with you, outside of a couple people, and that is guys like Reed Garrett, Austin Warren, and I mean, you could say Waddell, but at the same time, the southpaw who started the game for the Mets didn't even go beyond 1.1 innings where he gave up those 2 earned runs. He's a guy that hasn't pitched in Major League Baseball for over 3 years. He's been in the KBO the past 3, where he's sat right around a flat 3 ERA or so as a starter there in the Korean Baseball League. But now coming to the Mets here, working the pitching lab, he's a little bit of batting practice early there for his spring debut or so. But as we actually now pivot everybody into getting more here on the performance, let's just smoothly transition into the pitching stats that you guys see beside me, right? Because the Mets threw out a lot of pitchers today, and Reed Garrett was the most notable one in the mix for sure. Unlike everyone else that presented themselves, Reed Garrett came out and was pretty much as calm, cool, and collected as you could hope for. He is the only Mets pitcher today that went 1 scoreless inning without giving up a hit, and he struck out a batter too in doing so. Davinsky, who is obviously a guy that's competing and try to impact the Mets at all, potentially out of the bullpen this year, he had a sub-7 ERA this past season with the Rays, and he was a bit of batting practice too when he went in there. Austin Warren, another guy that's on the outside looking in, competing for a spot. Same applies, give up some runs there that we saw. And as we break down further in this game, as we got to the 4th inning, that's where Jared Young had his 2nd hit of the day for the Mets, as well as Reed Garrett going 1-2-3 with that strikeout. As we then got to the 5th inning, we saw Tyrone Taylor with a hit by pitch. Brett Baty then goes oppo, this time for a single, so Brett the Met with a 2-hit day. And the only reason why I didn't give Baty my spring standout is because I really was expecting Jose Siri to do something, and he did exactly what I expected. So I really like the fact that he reaffirmed my thought process and validated it rather. So that's why I wanted to give Jose Siri the reins today. Otherwise, it would have been a guy like Brett the Met or Bonds Baty, however you want to call him. We love the wordplay here on the platform. As we got to the 5th inning there, after the Baty single, Chris Davinsky came in, as I mentioned, and then he gave up a home run right away there that we saw, and just like that, that makes it a 5-4 Astros lead, and they would never look back. Carantini with his 3rd RBI of the day, or really first true RBI, because the first 2 were thanks to an error from Jared Young at first. The second was that solo shot, and he got all that one, which leads us to the 6th inning, where the Astros don't stop hitting. But when I say they don't stop hitting, it's Caleb Smith, their number 1 prospect, who they've acquired over this past offseason or so, that made the difference. The 22-year-old hit not 1, but 2 home runs against the Mets in the 8-5 victory for the Astros. And Jet Williams, Jet the Met himself, had himself a single and looked pretty solid there in the later innings once he got in there in the lineup. Because as we transition into the Mets' offensive numbers in this 8-5 loss, it is as follows, as you guys see beside me. This is how the game ended, not how it started, right? So Jet Williams with at least a single. He is one of, if not our top infield prospect right now, and we're expecting a lot of big things with Jet Williams this year, fully healthy, back from that wrist injury this past year, which derailed him the majority, like all of summer last season. Jet is looking good. He's looking locked and loaded and could impact the Mets at some point this year, even if it's just a cup of coffee or I think what is greater reality is that Jet is still probably the majority of the year in the minor leagues with guys like Acuna, Baty, and Mauricio ahead of him to get some infield opportunities as the Mets are going to have a little bit of a rotating door going on as to which guys, the youngsters, do they want to give opportunities to? How long do they give them opportunities before then seeking someone else there in the minor leagues, kind of flip-flopping them, which is why the Mets and David Stearns in particular likes flexibility at the utility role. I want Jose Iglesias back. I think you can bring Jose back while still having that utility aspect by maybe parting ways with someone else on the roster, but I understand it's easier said than done. So for the time being, the Mets are going to be rolling with their in-house options, barring changes. We see here Swaggerty, who I remember plenty well. He's been in the league for a while. He ripped himself an RBI single in the latter half of this game as well. William Lugo, who came in there at third base later on, had, decent at-bats, but nothing crazy. And that's pretty much it on the offensive end, everybody. Ryan Clifford came in for first base, one of our more heralded prospects, especially on the power end, because the guy absolutely rakes. A part of the trade with Drew Gilbert and Drew Gilbert being a part of the package where he sent Justin Verlander back to Houston at the 2023 trade deadline. And speaking of Justin Verlander, he's one of many players that I'll be discussing in the Bleacher Report app today, right around 5 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are chiming into that content in case you guys weren't planning on it already. But now, as we get back into the main slide here, everybody, I think it goes without saying that this has been an awesome start to spring for the Mets if you are focusing on what you're supposed to be focusing on. Obviously, not just win-loss record, but seeing the guys go out there, get their quality at-bats, and now to see both Juan Soto and Jose Siri home run right away in spring's awesome. Brett Baty is doing exactly what he's been doing for the past couple of years, and I've been a Brett Baty lover since the start. Has it wavered over the past year and a half because he's really found himself in this kind of quadruple A category of like too good for triple A but not good enough to be a consistent MLB player? Yes, but Baty has always had the raw tools and ability, and he showed that ability to really amplify his defense this past year at the hot corner. But then what happened? He lost the bat-to-ball skills shortly after the regular season began, couldn't lift the ball again, and it was a continued problem for Brett. Now as we enter 2025, we're seeing the great strides he's making this spring. So the big question is, have we truly finally reached a resolution with Brett Baty where this will be the year? Will this be his Mark Vientos breakout type year where he gets an opportunity either to crack the roster in the utility role, or maybe he gets called up after, say, the first couple weeks because someone goes down with injury or they're just underwhelming, and then he gets an opportunity and maximizes it? It's a great question, but I will tell you this, everybody. David Stearns and the Mets love the idea of having another lefty on this bench. When you look at the bench configuration right now, it consists of only one lefty bat, and that's Jesse Winker. The problem is Jesse's going to be batting in the lineup far more than he will be on the bench, knowing that he'll be DHing the majority of the time, especially facing that right-handed pitching. Left-handed pitching is where you get creative and bring in your platoon on Marte or somewhere else, especially with Marte uncertainty that we're going to talk about more shortly on the platform, so be on the lookout for that one. But Baty fits the role as not only a potential utility fit, but that lefty bat option. So that's some food for thought for you guys that we're going to expand on further later today. But it's been a fascinating battle so far in the early goings of spring training because Acuna was amazing in such a short period of time last year in the 10 games. But what did we see today? We saw Acuna look sharp as well as strike out a couple times. Now, again, it's spring training, so it literally means little to nothing. But just to kind of make note that while Acuna looked great in a small sample size last year, he was very underwhelming throughout the majority of the minor league season there in AAA. So what can we expect from Acuna in 2025? That's what the next 2.5, 3+ weeks are going to be all about. It's giving Acuna reps. It's giving Baty reps. It's letting these guys battle it out and see who's going to be the best of the bunch, if you will, out of said utility type players. And again, I don't want to see a guy like Acuna or Baty have limited playing time if they're going to be on the roster, but that's kind of what happens, unfortunately, when you have as stacked and as star-studded as a roster that the Mets now have. I know you're going to say, but what about Jeff McNeil? And I get that, but until the Mets either decide to trade Jeff or are committed to actually benching him, he's going to be our opening day second baseman barring changes. He had a north of a 900 OPS in the second half last year, and they're going to feed off of that along with his continued ability to try to work on his home run power, which I don't love. I thought it was actually fitting. SNY dropped a clip earlier today of Edwin Diaz doing some work with Jeff McNeil, and Jeff, as a surprise to absolutely nobody, was first pitch swinging, but then Jeff went and fell just short on the warning track of a home run. I just thought it was funny because that has been literally McNeil's entire MO to this point. Whenever he tries to tap into power, it's not consistent, obviously. He's not a power hitter. He shouldn't try to be a power hitter. It's okay for more power to come naturally, but it's not something that he should be going out of his way to seek. I know he probably wants to because contact hitting is not going to get you far in today's game, and he knows that. But the reality is that Jeff is just not the guy that profiles well to be giving us consistent gap-to-gap or home run ability. If he showcases that consistently, awesome. But until then, we're going to have to see it to believe it. And right now, it's just more of a continuation of what has been kind of the Jeff McNeil story yet again as we enter spring training. I'm one of the biggest Baty fans. I want him to be good to start. I want him to be good too. Trust me, Landon. And here's the thing. Brett Baty is good. It's not like Baty's a bad player. He, by no stretch of the imagination, is a bad player, but he has yet to solidify himself consistently at the major league level. And his numbers have been very underwhelming with his struggles to lift the baseball especially. So that's what's going to be all the more interesting to see as we go on throughout spring training. This is specifically what spring is about. Spring training is about three things, right? It's one, it's for pitchers first and foremost. It's to help pitchers get ramped up. That's the most important thing as to why they go about this process. Secondly, it's also position battles. So when you're looking at a final roster spot or two for the Mets or for other teams, that's what you're focusing on. And then three, it's the prospects. It's the guys that maybe you're not going to pay attention to too much throughout the year, so you want to focus on them now. Maybe guys you never heard of, especially that you want to kind of get an idea of. Maybe you really love prospects, and this is like literally your World Series because you get to see everyone together for a number of weeks there before the regular season begins. That's exciting as well. So whatever your reasons are to follow spring training, those are pretty much the core three. No one should be buying stock into, okay, the Mets lost today, that means they're trash, or the season's already over, can't you tell? Or okay, because Francisco Lindor didn't hit at all in spring training, he's going to be cooked this year. He might even have a slow start to regular season like last year, if that would be the case throughout the entire course of spring, say he doesn't hit. But even then, we saw what Lindor did after the first month and a half, and the rest is history. So when you put up MVP caliber performance, that tends to trump slow starts. The same way that no one should be buying into, oh my goodness gracious, I can't believe that this guy's doing nothing all spring long while this guy's doing everything, right? If we have learned anything from spring training performances in recent years while covering them on the platform, I think one thing in particular is the following. Zach Short. I can't get enough of it. Zach Short looked very sharp in spring training last year. His versatility was awesome, and the Mets really liked him. And he was constantly flashing leather and making the right plays. As soon as the Mets cracked him on the roster, it was like multiple errors. The kickstart his career when he was getting limited playing time with the Mets. Grew up a Mets fan too, I believe, New York native in that area or whatever. But he was not with the Mets long. Then they opted not long after there that we saw with guys like Mark Vientos, and then things really soared, obviously. But that came more so after, the failed trying to really ramp up a guy like Brett Baty after 40, 50 games last year and just not doing enough to consistently sit on this roster, especially if you're only getting limited playing time. Baty looks different. I think we might crack the team. And here's the thing about Brett. He's got nothing to lose. How are you doing, RZ? Happy to have you in the chat. We appreciate you. If you guys are watching live on a replay, thank you guys so much. Smash a like and subscribe on your way in as we're breaking down the latest in Mets land. This will not be a long-winded post-game show today either, as I'll be live in the Bleacher Report app in not even 20 minutes or so, breaking down the top 10 players that are on new teams to watch this spring training, including guys like Juan Soto, Justin Verlander, maybe Max Scherzer. You'll be on the lookout for that one. But guys, we will not only have you further with post-game coverage all throughout spring and regular season and postseason. We will have individual video content pretty much out daily as well. We will have a video out later today, so be on the lookout for that. But to kind of put a pin in it on the spring training takeaways for me, this has been really, really fun to watch. Acuna, Siri, Baty. Love the start of it. And if they die down and they don't do much next week, plus that's fine too. I'm just really happy to be back in the groove watching Mets baseball with each and every one of you. So smash a like and subscribe on if you guys haven't already. Help us it'd be awesome if we could get to 250 likes at any point in the live show, live on our replay. My replay viewers, please let us know your biggest takeaways in the comments down below. Like I said, this is not going to be an elongated discussion on my end. Bring back OMG. He's been an excellent mentor for the younger guys. I wholeheartedly agree. And I will say if they don't bring him back, it's going to be because of what they've been consistent on, which is that roster flexibility. Maybe not something that I love, but I can understand it to a degree, even though Jose, I think, makes endless sense to still bring back to this Mets team. Let's see here. Looking forward to watching all the baby Mets compete. Likewise, I really am. And guys, I'm actually going to transition ever so quickly. I'm not going to be long-winded with this either, to give a massive shout out to two awesome followers on the platform. One is Dave Kaplowitz, who's probably watching this right now, great member. And the other is Chris, who's been a longtime follower as well, who's sent things in the past. So I'm just going to unveil the following things that they've sent my way quick, because it needs to be done. These are awesome Mets-related gifts sent my way to share with each and every one of you. And to everyone who has sent things my way, thank you kindly for that. It really means a lot. We're getting close to 100 likes in the live show already. Jose, thank you so much for the hype. We really appreciate that. Want to commend you on stellar coverage of the boys in blue and orange. Leon, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. I cannot begin to tell you guys how much I grind every single day and how much this is not only my full-time thing, but it literally is. Like, I'm a full-time dad when I'm not working. This is everything that I'm doing every single day, 24/7, 365. So if you want consistent Mets coverage every single day from a diehard fan who's going to be transparent, going to tell you things and his personal point of view, as well as being honest and maybe even things I don't agree with, but are a reality of a situation, I'm going to be as blunt and as honest as possible with you guys while making sure that there's a balance so not taking things too far one way or the other. But all right, enough of me. Let's get into what was sent my way. And first, shout out to my guy, Chris. Thank you so much for sending things my way. Chris sent this. For those that don't know, I have a son. His name is Shay, and he's an absolute thing of beauty. He is my pride and joy in so many different ways. And I was sent this awesome little plush, not Mr. Met, just but like a Mets player plush for Shay, which is so cool. Thank you so much for that, Chris. He also, so you guys can see in here, there's a little Mets bat, keychain. Very cool. And two things that really stood out to me that I'm so excited to share is the following. One is this, which is really cool. It's the first official Juan Soto Topps Mets card, right there, when he officially signed with the Mets. I'm going to put this on my backdrop somewhere sooner rather than later, or at least by where I have a lot of my other signed baseballs and stuff, but absolutely sick. Oh, and there goes the card. Good thing that it dropped perfectly on its protector, so there's nothing to worry about. But again, guys, that is the Juan Soto Mets card. So sick. Thank you so much for that, Chris. I really appreciate that. I actually didn't even notice these cards when they first dropped because when the Juan Soto signing happened, I was just so engulfed with covering it that the last thing I was thinking of was getting his first card or anything like that. So that's really cool. Well, this means a lot to me. Chris with a very nice letter and note there, who's been a longtime supporter, sent things in the past, and thank you for the things you sent in the past, Chris. Chris, yes, your dream will become a reality. He sent me the first official Juan Soto newspaper when the Mets signed him back in December. I did not get this yet. I got the one the day after that you see there, but I wasn't able to get this right away. So thank you so much for that, Chris. It means a lot. I'm going to put this on my wall ASAP, and you will probably see it in content as soon as tomorrow probably, and it'll be up there probably forever, and it's all thanks to you, Chris. So that way you will always have a lasting memory on the wall behind me of something that you sent my way, and it's a perfect theme to go right along with the other Photoshop, that being in Francisco Lindor right there. It's gonna look perfect. Thank you so much for that, Chris. I seriously can't thank you enough. Then let's get on to the other goodies that come courtesy of my guy Dave Kaplitz. How was Siri's home run? It was awesome. That's how Siri's home run was. And guys, we are going to be wrapping up the show in the next 5 minutes or so. Like I said, not going to be too long winning today. We'll try to get to some comments as well before I wrap it up. No, the mic is not out either, guys. I just have it down, so that's why I sound a little drowned out, or the volume isn't as strong. That's the only reason why. Look at this, guys. It's a little late to the party, but hey, maybe this is a sign to still bring our boy back. And Mr. OMG, look at that. OMG Mets. And actually, let's just go to our, we can just do the Wardy webcam for this. That'll make life a lot easier. There you go, guys. Okay. Don't mind the missing frame of Steve Cohen and I behind there. It fell down a couple days ago, so I still got to put it back up. But awesome shirt. Thank you so much for that, Dave. Really does mean a lot. Really, really do appreciate it. And then we also have some amazing Juan Soto gifts. But before we get there, we have this Mets shirt, which is sick. Brand new New York Mets shirt. I'll be repping these all throughout content, like you've seen in the past, Dave, as always. He also sent me a couple hats, including the one that you see I'm rocking. This is a 7-line home run apple, and I'm obsessed with it. This is the exact kind of hat style that I love, especially a little bit more of the trucker theme at the point. To see the home run under, so sick. I'm going to be wearing this hat a lot this year. And I got the 7-line patch on the side. There was another trucker you sent me, as well as this awesome Mets hat too. Thank you so much for that, Dave. I'm going to be rocking these all year long, as well as the following, which is a really, really cool Juan Soto Mets shirt. You know what? I appreciate it because I gave away a Juan Soto Mets shirt jersey and a Juan Soto jersey already this year. So it really does feel nice to actually get some Juan Soto things sent my way. Thank you so much for that, Dave. Really does mean a lot. And the reason why this means so much to me is not just because it's Juan Soto, but it's because I'm going to be able to rock this for years to come with my son, Shay. as he was gifted a Juan Soto shirt too. Like, that's just insane. My dad said it right away. We're just thinking about when I hit a game at Citi Field and I take the photo of me and my son Shay, and we're both rocking our Soto jerseys or shirt jerseys like this. That's exactly what we'll be doing. Not this year because Shay's a little one right now, but once he's able to rock this in the next couple of years, he's absolutely good. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for that. And last but not least, we have a couple more things in here, and then we're going to wrap up the show because I got to do a live show for Bleacher Report shortly. We have a Mets bracelet that I'll be rocking plenty that you guys will see in the content throughout the course of the year. Very cool. Look at this thing. Very cool. Love it. Reminds me of the bracelets, honestly, going back to my time in middle school, where these things were a lot more popular then, especially with how it's I don't even know how to explain what kind of bracelets these are, but there's a term for those kind of bracelets. And last but not least, a Mets crew neck. Very cool. Very, very cool. Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you so much, Chris, to the both of you. It means the absolute world to me. And again, guys, if you're wondering, why is this guy Wardy just showing off all this Mets gear to us? Like, seriously, I'm pissed off. Why isn't that me? I apologize, one. And two, as I've been doing since we started the platform 4+ years ago, I have a PO box in the description of the live shows of every video content I do. And I always say, if you guys are a supporter of me and you ever want to send Mets related things my way to get a shout out, to have things kind of featured behind me, because mind you, all the stuff here, the majority of the stuff here, I did not acquire. It's been sent to me. And the whole point is to have you guys a part of the content in various ways. So whether you guys see a shirt or a hat that I'm repping that you got me at a Mets game or in a post-game coverage like this, or if it's something put on my wall like a Soto newspaper, little and small things go such a long way. Dave's been such a long-time follower of mine. Chris has as well. Thank you guys again. And everyone that chimed in and enjoyed the content, I greatly appreciate that. Have I heard how Senga's doing? Senga's doing good. I will actually talk a little bit more on Senga in a video that I will have out for you guys later today. Nothing negative, thankfully, which is good to hear, but we will talk a little bit on Senga for sure. Paracord bracelet. Thank you, Jonathan, for clarifying. I appreciate that. Because I have another one similar to this where it's kind of like one of those where you can take it apart, and then there's also a little like a knife in it. It's kind of like a fire starter. It's all these things, especially if you're say out in the woods or something along those lines. So it's a similar style of that, but no less. Thank you guys again for the gifts. I greatly appreciate it. That is going to conclude the latest WardyNYM post-game show as the Mets go on to lose by a final score of 8-5. If you guys enjoyed the content and enjoyed the quick breakdown on all the latest in Mets land, please smash that like and subscribe on your way out. Share with your friends and help us get to 32,000 subscribers, folks. We're just under 50 subs away now, which is crazy, and we're giving away a jersey to one lucky winner of whatever player they want currently on the roster once we hit 32k and do a live show a week from that point. So be on the lookout. Thank you guys so much again. Check me out on the BR app. Check me out in a video later today. Until then, have a tremendous rest of your day, night, evening.